Good morning, everybody. I'm Kathy Russ. I'm the director of the Troy Public Library, and it is my pleasure to welcome you this morning, this early morning. But it's a really important topic, and we thought it would be great to offer something in the morning before you went to work or whatever. There is going to be another session January 24th, very similar to this. Our presentation today focuses largely on the effects of opioids on the workplace and in business. The session on January 24th will be more general in terms of how to identify signs in your family and, just as you go through your life. So if you're interested in this, you might be interested in that, and please tell all your friends. So just a couple housekeeping details before we get started. As I hope you saw, there are treats in the back, pastries and coffee from Ridley's, so please help yourself. And should you need to use the restroom, be at home. What you do is you go out the meeting room door, turn to your left, go about halfway down the hallway, and it's on your left again. So this is your house too, so be comfortable. So with that, I would like to introduce Nancy Morrison, who is the Executive Director of the Troy Community Coalition, and she does just the most fantastic job, so she's going to tell you more about the coalition. So welcome,
Thank you so much, Kathy. Greatly appreciate that. Well, good morning, everyone. The Troy Community Coalition has been in existence now for 26 years, and we implement numerous prevention programs and numerous strategies, and we have to include all sectors of our community so we are all on the same page. We are also a data-driven organization, so we look at our local data in regards to drugs, alcohol, tobacco, the school data, hospital data, police data, and that is how we create our strategic plan. That's how we take action. So, of course, we are aware of the opioid epidemic, so we have started to put on different presentations and making sure we reach all sectors with this presentation. And I'm pleased to introduce, we have two speakers with us today. They are both serve on the Troy Community Coalition's Executive Board. Our first speaker is Dr. Melissa Iben. She is the owner and chiropractor at Pure Health Center in Troy, and her center offers chiropractic care, massage therapy, and naturopathy. Dr. Iben's main drive is to promote health and wellness in the community. As a healer, she helps her patients achieve and meet their greatest health potential. And as the vice president of the Troy Community Coalition, she is an active member of the Kiwanis Club and Troy Women's Association, so she is able to give back to the community and share her knowledge of living a healthy life. Dr. Iben attended Palmer College of Chiropractic and graduated with a Doctor of Chiropractic degree. She has been fortunate enough to travel to third world countries, treating hundreds of patients with chiropractic care, and this global view of healing has helped shape how she practices every day right here in Troy. And our other presenter is Dr. Daniel Farkas. Dr. Farkas discovered chiropractic after he was injured at the age of 20, and he was unable to walk for 30 days. He contacted a relative who was a chiropractor, and Dr. Farkas was literally carried into his office. He was examined and adjusted and was able to walk out of the office. Dr. Farkas was amazed about the chiropractor work, and he wanted to know how he could develop those healing powers. So he was invited to apply to the Life University of Marietta, Georgia. He attended the university and graduated on the dean's list with a Doctor of Chiropractic degree. Dr. Farkas is an avid recruiter for his alma mater, and he has developed Back to Health chiropractic care to help the Troy area be known as a healthy city. Dr. Farkas believes that with effective natural health care, anyone can overcome any health challenges. So let's welcome both of these presenters. And Dr. Melissa Iben will start us off.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Troy Library for having us. The Troy Community Coalition, like Nancy was saying, we really work hard on prevention and education of substance abuse in the area. So we decided to launch this new educational series, one of the opioid epidemic, which is the hot topic of what's going on now. Trump just made the announcement that it's declared a national state of public health emergency, which we're not really sure what that means just yet, but we're hoping that funding will start being allocated to the opioid epidemic that's going on. Okay, so first we're going to talk about what exactly opioids are because there's a lot of confusion. So opioids are a natural or a semi-synthetic chemical that reduces the feeling of overall pain. So it's generally prescribed for some moderate to severe, for severe pain. Some of the common prescriptions that are out there for opioids right now are hydrocodone, which is Vicodin, oxycodone, which is Oxycontin, oxymorphone and Opana, and methadone and fentanyl. So those are some of the common prescriptions that you might hear that maybe your doctor has prescribed already. Okay, so the growing volume of opioids. What this slide specifically means is it's describing what's going on at by state level. So out of 100 people in Michigan, there's 107 prescriptions for opioids out there. So you can see we're on the higher end of the spectrum. Some of the higher ones are Alabama, so maybe a little bit more south, but the Midwest is getting hit pretty hard with this epidemic. So hydrocodone is one of the most frequently prescribed opioids out there right now. So out of the 207 million prescription for pain medication in 2013, hydrocodone made up 124 million, so that's about 60%. So what does it mean to have a prescription abuse? So you get prescribed by a doctor your medication. So they give you directions of how to take your medication. So if it's every 8 hours, every 4 hours, that's kind of what you're supposed to do, right? So when you're not taking it as described, so that means taking it with a glass of wine or taking it every like I said, every 4 hours instead of 8, that's when it comes into play of the abuse or what it's originally intended. In 2016, a total of 11.5 million people in the U.S. misused the opioid drugs. So this slide specifically means it's kind of describing in the last 30 days in 2000, they took a month in 2016, I believe it was September, they did a poll on how many people actually abused an opioid drug that was 12 and older. And they were saying that there's 3.3 million people in 30 days that abused an opioid drug. And opioids are one of the most common abused drugs by teens as well. Obviously, there's alcohol and marijuana. So we're going to go over the 3 types of prescription drugs that are out there that can be abused. So just to kind of differentiate what's going on. So you have sedatives. The sedatives are more like the muscle relaxers, the Valium, Xanax. So this is going to depress the central nervous system, so it's going to reduce blood pressure, reduce your heart rate, just gives you that feeling of calmness and de-stressed, and you commonly can fall asleep pretty easily on sedatives. Then you have the stimulants that kind of wakes you up, usually is prescribed with ADHD, drugs that kind of just increase your brain activity, so it gives you alertness, increases your blood pressure, and in your heart rate. So that's going to be like Adderall, Dexedrine, Ritalin, Concerta. So those are the 2 different drugs there. But then we have the opioids, which are called the strong pain relievers. So we're going to get into more of the bread and butter of that later. But again, it's the Vicodin, the Oxycontin, the Percocet, and that's going to give you that feeling of highness. So it's going to reduce your pain and give you that euphoria feeling. So this is a poll. This was taken over a full year. So it describes kind of what's going on as the process of misusing opioids. So in the first 29 days, you're able to get it from a friend. So you get it from Aunt Susie. You say, well, my back is hurting me. Hey, Aunt Susie, can I borrow some Vicodin, right? And then as the days go on and you become more addicted and you're misusing it and it's not a prescription, you become a little bit more desperate. So you can see as you buy it from the drug dealer and like that 200, 365 days, you can see that increases. Also, you're getting it from multiple doctors now. So you're going and kind of recruiting other doctors to get on board. So how specifically opioids work, you have these opioid receptors. They're in your brain, your spinal cord, and your gut. So when you take an opioid, it attaches itself to the receptors. So, and then when that happens, it actually blocks that pain gateway. So you have a reduced feeling of pain. The problem with that is that as you take opioids, you stop producing dopamine because you're getting the pushes of dopamine from the drug. So when that happens, that's when the addiction comes into play because we crave that dopamine, that good feeling. So dopamine is that euphoria feeling and that relaxation. So opioids and heroin work very well together. They do very similar things in the brain, and they are actually a cheaper. Most of the time when people do opioids, they tend to go to heroin because it's a cheaper drug. So when you're addicted and you get to that point where you just want that high, that's when the heroin kind of comes into play. So prescription opioids and heroin chemicals are closely related, like I said. Their effects, especially when misused, can be very similar. Because heroin may be cheaper to get, people have become addicted to prescription pain medication, and then they switch to heroin. 80% of the people addicted to heroin started first with opioids. And then in 2014 to 2015, you had about 5,500 deaths to about 9,500 deaths. So there was quite a jump there. From 2010 to 2015, we've tripled that. So there's quite the correlation. So with heroin use, a lot of things, when you're taking other ways to kind of self-medicate, right? So alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, everything kind of increases. So you're 2 times more likely to use heroin if you have already used alcohol. 3 times with marijuana, 50 times more likely to use heroin if you've used cocaine, and then 40 times more likely to use heroin if you used an opioid. So that's pretty significant numbers. So now I'm going to switch gears. We're going to go shift over to Dr. Farkas. He's going to talk about the cost of addiction and what it means in our lives with an employer standpoint and from an actual employee, loss of jobs and family, and just your overall life. So I'm going to shift gears to Dr. Farkas now.
Thank you for everybody for showing up this morning. I say hit them where it hurts. When you hit them in the pocketbook, that's where it's going to hurt the worst, and that's where something that's pretty easily measurable gets manifest. About 25% of the workers' comp money that's paid out, that's people that get hurt at work, 25% of that money goes to pay for opioid prescriptions. So I'd say there's just a bit of an imbalance there. I want you guys to understand, too, that the United States were about 3% of the world's population. And we take about, can anyone guess, somebody guess, what percentage of opioids do you think that we take? Someone guess, say a number. Say a number.
50%.
Oh, that's a good guess. Say a number.
45%?
95%.
Oh, wow.
No problem here, right? Okay. So here we go. So say you're an employer, and you put together a company through your blood, sweat, and tears, and you're trying to get out of debt and eke out a profit. Well, you got to pay for health care for your employees. For people that don't use opioids, each year presently, it costs about $10,853 to take care of somebody. Now watch this. For someone that uses opioids, it costs $19,450, about 2 times. So as an employer, when you incur those type of costs, that affects your bottom line. It affects how you behave and move financially, and it affects your ability to create more jobs, to get more people, to make more money, to pay more taxes, et cetera, et cetera. Empowering business owners is a way to grow an economy, if you ask me. This is very significant, an $8,597 difference per year per employee. Okay, here's another big, giant, lofty number. Medical cost of abuse, approximately $8 billion a year. So it's hard to kind of put to wrap your head around that number. What would $8 billion a year do for Oakland County? It's like, please, it's like, man, if we could eradicate this problem and drag that, we would have a skyscraper. It's just like, man, how much money would the coalition get out of that? That's what I think. Okay, lives, there's nothing that's money, time, things can be replaced or accounted for. Life cannot be recovered. 91 Americans die every day from opioid abuse. These are not as you know, these are not the dregs of society. We also want to reduce the stigma that goes along with opioid abuse. These are good, normal, upstanding people that are good family people, went to college, work hard, pay their taxes, do what they're supposed to. They just get hurt. They get hurt in an accident. They get handed something that works and is effective to make them manage and cope, to feel better while they heal. The problem is it's highly addictive. It's tough. It's like if you hurt and break your shoulder bad in an accident and somebody says, oh, you're going to be in a lot of pain while you're healing. Here's cigarettes. Start smoking, but in 3 months, you got to quit, okay? As soon as your shoulder's healed. It would be tough because it has addictive qualities to it. So it's just something else I wanted to touch on. These are lives of like I say, not the dregs of society. These are not homemade drugs and pills and things like meth that have a real bad stigma to it, which affects good people too as well. But these are people that had good. The word I'm going to use is intention. They had good intention for the way that they waded out into this problem. All right, I'm going to read. So here we go. Opioid abuse deaths continue to increase. It's not planed out. It's not going down through the tactics that have been employed so far. Still, more than 300,000 Americans have lost their lives to opioids, prescription and illicit, since 2000. And it's not going down. It's going up. And our population is not moving in accordance with that, too. It's escalating is what I want you guys to understand. This is an interesting chart. This shows the density of the problem in areas throughout the country. South Texas, not much of that going on. Right through cross-section, right through America, not much, but of course population is not very dense there too as well. Something interesting that came up yesterday is California, for the density of population of California, not a massive amount of opioid abuse going. Now, it's prevalent, of course, and I think that is because of its proximity to Asia and its accessibility to Asian and Eastern medicine and alternative medicine. California's a pretty progressive place. I lived there for 3 years. It's very progressive. People have a lot of forward-thinking ideas about healthcare and other things. But this, where are we? Where do we fall? Oh, we're pretty dense. So.
That's population adjusted, right? So the chart says per 100,000 population. So,
yeah.
So, it's not just about the urban centers.
True. Yeah, and we have density, right? Yes, thank you. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Productivity. What's productivity? Productivity is people showing up to work, knocked out on their feet, dazed, woozy. These people they drove to work, remember, too, as well. They drove to work, and they're probably going to drive home feeling this way. I'm going to read to you. The estimated loss in productivity for people in the United States with opioid use disorders totaled $20.4 billion, and that's what we know about. It's probably more than that. $20.4 billion. What could Michigan do with $20.4 billion? If we could eradicate this and redirect this, how many people could be fed? How many backpacks could we buy with $20.4 billion? Got to do something different. Okay, we want to talk about warning signs. Everybody here is pretty astute, but I just want to review things in case if there's one thing that you pick up on that's a little bit enlightening as warning signs for knowing whether or not somebody could possibly be abusing opioids. Remember, these are normal people. You might not know what's happening. You might not know that they have a pain syndrome or they have something going on or that they just kind of decided to experiment with opioids. So I'm going to read to you just a little bit here. Excessive sweating, urination or thirst, nausea and vomiting, uncontrollable diarrhea, doesn't sound pleasant, spastic shaking, drowsiness, dizziness and insomnia, loss of consciousness, physical dependence, addiction. This is the beginning of the problem, vomiting. This is something you can police in your home. Sure, it's easier to police younger people. In absence of fever, in absence of overt infection, if you notice vomiting or consistent vomiting or inappropriate vomiting, that's a good time to ask those questions. sweating, nausea, runny nose, dilated pupils, watery eyes, looking sick at not appropriate times and in not appropriate frequency and duration. Anxiety, insomnia, localized pain. These are other signs too. Anxiety, insomnia, again, when it comes to children and people in your home or people in your workplace too, people that you know, is they start to complain about things just kind of out of the blue or not characteristic of them. These are things to start to consider. And then we're going to talk at the end about what you can do to advise people to help them. Now, what they say is that all these symptoms slowly fade, and over time feelings of wellness can return as they start to, I would say, accommodate to the use of the drug. All right, here's some other warning signs. I'm kind of going to read to you here. Sudden mood changes, including irritability, negative attitude, personality change, extreme changes in groups of friends or hangout locations. Pretty important right there. If you find that people are going to area, now, as I understand it, this is how it works. All you got to do is you got to get to Woodward Avenue and you got to get on a bus and you got to head south, and kids know where to go. They know where to go, or if you're on the bus long enough, someone will approach you that's working that day too in order to try to sell you some heroin, which is cheap and easy to find. Remember, heroin sounds like probably one of the most intense, most severe, most consequential drugs, but it's when you're a kid, it's hard to have access to prescription pills sometimes. A lot easier to just make your way to Woodward Avenue, get on a bus, go south. If you notice geographically someone is going somewhere where they normally don't go, especially a child, these are things you might want to consider. Lying or being deceitful. Good luck discerning that with a teenager. I'm a 16-year-old right now. Unaccounted time away from home, missed school days, avoiding eye contact, losing interest in personal appearance, extracurricular activities, poor performance at school, borrowing money or having extra cash, visiting and even purchasing from pro-drug illegal websites. You can buy stuff on the internet. You can get these sent to your house on the internet. So remember, some people may say, well, boy, if you're on drugs, you're probably destitute and lying, cheating, stealing, never have a penny to your name. Or it could be the other way around. It could be an enterprising person that gets involved in drugs that now has access to drugs and is now selling them to make a profit and get drugs for free for themselves too. These are things to think about. So if you magically see your kid with a big, huge wad of cash, it's probably not from a paper route. These are things to consider. Oh, here we go. Oh, I can read from here. Droopy appearance. Eyes will close, they'll jolt awake, arms and legs will appear as if they're heavy, irregular pupils, people that avoid eye contact, runny nose, bad hygiene. Real important. That's an easy one to spot. Long sleeves that could hide tracks where people inject and shoot drugs. Skin picking. Yeah, this is interesting. The heroin causes the body to release histamine, leading to dry skin. They all got dry skin real bad. They got dry skin real bad. Lotion in all the time or they're picking. Weight loss, of course, too, because these drugs tend to inhibit appetite. And missing shoelaces. If you need to tie off, say if you wanted to inject some heroin and you're out in the park somewhere, you're hiding out of view, and you had to tie off, what would you probably use? Probably your shoelace if you had one. These are just other things to consider. There are alternative ways to manage pain. We encourage everybody to talk to your doctor about ways to manage your pain that don't include prescription opioids. Some of these options may work better and have fewer risks and side effects. Good news, there are alternatives to these things that work and they're effective. Some of them have been a while coming in the making, but they're here and they're available and they are attainable. Let's see. Oh. Here we go. Cognitive and behavioral therapy and exercise. These work wonderful. Cognitive behavioral therapy, if anyone is or isn't familiar with it, what it does is, as I understand it, between the ages of 5 and 10, this is when you create your persona and how you filter the world. You create your value system of good and bad and your weights and measures of how you perceive the world. If you're exposed to pain, if you're exposed to someone in your family with pain, you can get a real negative connotation about pain or about yourself, how you feel if you happen to have chronic pain. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps to uncover when and where the identity of the perception of whether pain is good or bad and self-judgment. That's real important. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapies, is designed to break up the cycle of self-judgment of pain that can help to break a cycle so someone could take action to do something different. Exercise works wonderful. I got to tell you, most prescribed medication right now are statins. Second is antidepressants. I tell my clients, I go, do you know if you go get hot and sweaty exercising, it does the same thing as an antidepressant, essentially, without the homicidal, suicidal side effects. There is a time and place for antidepressants, of course, but they can be abated in a lot of instances. Oh, here we go. Massage. Massage works great. Everybody who doesn't like massage? What it really does, though, is it helps to break up adhesions where the muscles and the fascia that covers muscles, and what fascia is, if you've ever seen raw ribs, for example, there's like a membrane that covers the ribs. So I call it the Spider-Man suit. It surrounds all your muscles and it separates them so they can slide. I got to tell you, sometimes that stops sliding and it causes agonizing muscle pain. We call it myalgia. That can lead to something called fibromyalgia too as well. It is debilitating and it has other organic problems. A massage therapist or I call it manual therapy therapist that knows what they're doing can identify these things, also called trigger points, that can just nag somebody and just wear them down, just like a nail just going into their shoulder, their neck, their back, anywhere in their body that can lead them to seek out opioids. Massage, fantastic. Oh, chiropractic care, that's my field. I'm a chiropractor, pretty simple idea. Brain sends messages down the spinal cord across the nerves to go to all the organs, tissues, and systems of the body. You're made of trillions of cells. The brain directs all of them on what to do and how to replace themselves, how to adapt to stress. If you pinch on one of the wires, if I pinch the wire that goes to the TV, eventually the TV's not going to work so good. So your body knows this, and it has a defense mechanism built into it that's called pain. And muscle spasm protects, inflammation tries to repair. But chronic pinching of nerves, there's nothing that's going to make that go away except to take the pressure off the nerve. That's what chiropractic does. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, okay, chiropractic, neck and back pain, but I got to tell you, more people come to us more and more for organ problems. So a guy comes, sits down and says, look, I don't have any neck or back pain, but my stomach is shot up. I'm on about 4 or 5 medications, including pain medication for my stomach. I heard you can help me. How does this work? And I'm like, we're going to check your spine and see if you have a short circuit in you. Chiropractic works good and it's drug-free too. So as far as being a healthcare provider, I'm glad, especially in this day and age, I'm a drug-free healthcare provider. Next. Oh, emotional freedom technique. This is kind of a fun one. It's based on acupuncture. Acupuncture works. Chinese medicine. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. They balance your energy or your energy meridians. But emotional freedom technique takes it a little further. Through the stimulation of certain acupuncture points, you can actually change how someone's subconscious works. Why would you want to change how your subconscious works? So that you could reprogram how you respond to stress and how you respond to the environment, how you respond to people, how you respond to things, happenstances, and again, stress. You can change this by using your hands and tapping on certain acupuncture points on your body, saying affirmations, and you can change things about yourself. If there's something that you want to get rid of, you got a dietary fixation you want to get rid of, smoking, want to fix your sleep, want to improve how you respond and react to people and situations, you can do it through emotional freedom technique. Google it up, YouTube it up, there's a million videos that explain how. Almost done. Reiki. Reiki works. I never knew what this was. I'm like, what is Reiki? Someone says, I'm a Reiki healer. Like, what is that? There are people that are trained and they hone their skills of using Reiki to heal people just by placing the hands on them. 95% of the world believes in a higher power. And people use their internal energy from themselves and or through their higher power to just lay their hands on people and heal them. It's the darndest thing. I had it done on me one time and it worked. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty neutral. Go ahead. Like, holy smokes, that works. So what causes it to work? Nobody really knows, but it just works like gravity. Oh, acupuncture. This is like the oldest medicine that there is. 6,000 to 7,000 years that this has been around. They use needles to fire up your energy points and restore energy flow through your body. They call it chi. And if you look at the first 3 letters of chiropractic, it's chi. Same idea. Restore energy flow, communication of body. Works fantastic. In the East, people have problems. They go for herbs and they go for acupuncture. They look at us like we're totally crazy for reaching for pills all the time. Like I said, we're 3% of the population. We take 95% of the opioids. We're 3% of the population. We take 70% of the world's supply of medication. 70%, it's in your water. You should drink filtered, cleaned up water. It's in your water. It just is. Oh, what else is left here? Oh, there's other natural alternatives and therapies. I say the hippies have done it. They did it. Through natural herb therapy, vitamins, supplements, there's virtually, short of emergency room care, which emergency room care, very important. It has saved my life 2 times, as a matter of fact. But emergency room care only accounts for about 1% of total health care. They say the average person goes to the emergency room once every 8 to 10 years, and that's it. So, short of emergency room care, for any other health malady or concern, there's something natural that works for it. So I got exposed to something called functional medicine. Functional medicine is the use of laboratory testing to determine what natural thing to put you on instead of what medication to put you on. So I got certified in that to help my son. And now I get people that come to me and say, hey, is there an alternative to these pills? Or isn't there some tests that they can do to figure out like what's wrong in there? Yes, there is. 3% of diseases are actually genetic. The other 97%, I believe, are epigenetic, or they're acquired from exposure to toxins and stress. And we can help it. This is the sources for all our information. I'm going to read this to you real slowly. Okay, no, I'm kidding. And this one too. What we want you guys to know is that we're not pulling these numbers out of a hat. We're not inventing these numbers. These are real numbers, and this is what we know about, and there's a lot more out there to be concerned with. This is our board. These are the people that help us. I got to tell you, our volunteers work really hard to put these programs together, to keep this message out and prevalent in Troy. Each one of you, we don't have a big crowd today, but guess what we do have? Each one of you knows 200 people that I will never meet in my life. And you guys have a circle of influence, so now when you hear or come across somebody that has got some reason to be put on opioids, tell them some things that they can do to help themselves. Say, you know, there's natural alternatives, there's natural health care. You got to investigate them, get them by the hand, especially the ones that you love, and drag them into a natural health care provider. If you want us to find them somewhere, anywhere in the country, I know people all over the world. I'll find somebody. Call me anytime. This message is so important. We're starting in Troy. We're going to take this message to the world. We think that a great way of penetrating the community is through businesses, really and truly. Why? Because when I start talking about the cost and hitting them where it hurts in the pocket, they kind of start listening. Wherever you work, wherever you have access to, if you can think of somewhere where we can come in and share this message, please write it on that yellow sheet today. Please give us your name, your information, and the name of the business. Let us contact you. Myself or our executive director, Nancy, or her assistant, Mary Ann. Any of us can reach out and talk to these people and set this up. You can be the ripple in the pond that changes and saves people's lives. So we really wanted to ask you guys to do that today. Think long and hard. Please get something down on that paper. And of course, we're always accepting donations, not of just of money, of time. But please stay close to us. Please follow us. I appreciate everybody coming out here today. Does anyone have any questions in particular for me, or any comments? Comments, concerns, questions? Anybody? No? Good. Oh, Jim, please.
Dan, I just thought I'd just put a capstone on this. You know, for me, as a hiring manager in a consulting firm several years ago, I had an employee who didn't show up for work one morning, and we were kind of a loose, there wasn't a set time. People work kind of 24/7 anyway, so it wasn't unusual for somebody not to be there, like right at 8 o'clock in the morning or something. But by 10 o'clock, we were starting to get concerned because nobody had heard from this individual, and she was pretty reliable in terms of being there and working. So by 10:30, we were calling her home, no answer. Calling her cell, no answer. By 11 o'clock, we were starting to call hospitals. Is this person, did this person come in on an emergency basis? We were getting frantic by noon, and by 12:30, we found her. She was at home, awakened out of like a late coma. She was using whatever, right? I never I never determined what it was, whether it was opioids or something else. But this is, this is a business impact, especially on a small business. You get somebody who is out of commission, all of a sudden you've got a hole in your employee base, and she went off for treatment for a few months. She came back. She made a good attempt to get back in to the mix, but it didn't work out for her. Longer term, I've kept in touch. She does seem to be doing better and functioning, so there was a success somewhere along the line, I think. But it can definitely impact a small business or a big business, right? Because when you think about the numbers of who and how many people it's affecting, you start to realize, if I got 200 people on my LinkedIn, probably three of them have had some encounter with opioid abuse. And it's worth taking a look and seeing if there are people in your own sphere, in your own environment, who you might approach and just ask a couple questions and be a little bit more observant and see if you can help.
Can I just make one more comment? Sure. Another thing is too, Dr. Parks and I see this all the time, where our patients are coming in and they're prescribed these opioids, and they're choosing not to take them. So they're going in for routine dental work, and they're getting opioids. So it is your choice, right? And so it's like, look to your right, look to your left. We are all capable of becoming addicted to these drugs, and so. A lot of my patients, actually, because they're already going towards more of the natural, they choose not to because it's an uncomfortable situation. So you have a voice when it comes to your prescriptions and your health. So just to kind of add that, but yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you.
You all have a little packet in front of you, and I just wanted to make you aware of the Troy Police Department is a place where you can take your expired and unused medications during normal business hours and drop them off, no questions asked. Part of the data that we had found was that our youth were raiding their parents' medicine cabinets. That's how a lot of them were getting started, and that was announced to the parents. The parents might have had an injury or had a surgery, and they had their medication in there, and they weren't using it anymore, but it was still sitting there. So that's what we were finding out, that the kids were raiding the medicine cabinet. So the best thing you can do, clean out your medicine cabinets. The holidays are coming up. You might have people in your home who might be utilizing your restroom. So dispose of them, and that will get rid of one of the problems. We've also heard that if you put your house up for sale, people were going to the open house and raiding the medicine cabinets because they knew that people would have prescriptions. They weren't interested in purchasing the house in any way, but they knew how they could get into the house. Yes, you have a question?
National or a monthly take back?
We do. It's a national, and it's 2 times a year. But the police department is so wonderful here in Troy, and really throughout Oakland County, that if you can go during normal business hours, and all you have to do is remove the prescriptions from the container, put it in a baggie, a Ziploc bag, seal it up, and then you can just drop it right into their this depository that they have.
No questions.
No questions asked. They might have you sign something, and then they end up incinerating the drugs. That's how they dispose of them. Did you have a question?
I have a question for anybody, but probably Dan. So, what is the solution to this problem? I mean, it seems, without knowing a heck of a lot about it, it seems like one of the major causes is these doctors are prescribing too much of this drug. So, is that true or not? And then, what's some proposed solutions
Well, one of the things that the Troy Community Coalition is working on is we're working with, an automated system, so at the pharmacies, so that all the doctors would have to implement, if they prescribed an opioid, it would be on this system. So if this individual tries to fill this prescription, it will be pulled up on this, they call it MAP screen. And so they would be able to see if this person was doctor shopping and getting several prescriptions filled. So that's going to resolve one of those problems. But yes, there is an issue with doctors overprescribing. Now the DEA is starting to, I guess, arrest these physicians who have, when somebody has overprescribed, when a doctor has overprescribed or has, some people have overdosed, and doctors still will write them a prescription, even though they may have overdosed once. So the DEA is taking action against these physicians and arresting them, and so I think that is a start. So there's numerous things. I told you we do numerous strategies. Well, educating, of course, the public, having the prescription drop boxes available throughout Oakland County and Macomb County, that's another solution. So I think if we all work together, we can resolve this issue.
What was that MAPI program?
It's-
Is that a state program?
Yes, it is. And it's in regards to prescription drugs and writing prescriptions, and physicians have to input information of a client if they have written a prescription for
And
them.
this legislation has been passed? or it's
Yes,
still in process?
it has been passed. So that's something that we've been working on for, I'd say, 5 years already, to get that up and running. So that's one of the things. I also, this little pink sheet you have, that's some treatment providers, so that if you do know of anybody who is having an issue, they can get help. There's inpatient and there's also outpatient. The Troy Community Coalition sells drug test kits. So if you suspect your child is using, you can have them utilize this in your own home. So you can be fighting with prevention on your end, and you can get the results in your own home like within 5 minutes. A lot of times, that's all a child needs is, I can't use that drug because I'm going to go home and my mom's going to drug test me. So that is a form of prevention, using that. So we do sell quite a few drug test kits to parents. Sometimes the parents will have their child come in and purchase the drug test kits with their own money as well. So again, that's one way that you can handle it on your own, to start with anyways. So just to go over a few more things that I have for you, be the solution. That's the next thing in your handout. This is a really good resource for you to look at and read through, and what you can do and what you need to know. The other blue sheet is a membership form. If you're interested in receiving a monthly e-newsletter from the coalition, sign up. If you're interested in being involved in any committees or anything, just let us know. We need help. We need volunteers. We need assistance. There's only 2 of us who are employed at the coalition, and we utilize volunteers for everything else. The last thing I wanted to mention was we do have a feedback form that we would like you to fill out. And if you could fill that out and leave that with us, that helps us improve our presentation. Help us to reach more people. Let us know what you're looking for. So are there any other questions before we end today and send you off to work or whatever else you need to do? Okay. Then we thank you so much for being here. And if you could, again, turn in the surveys before you leave. And thank you for being here.